I have random spirits sitting all over the place, maturating and aging. To be honest, a bunch of those have just kind of been forgotten about. So I'm making an effort to get through everything I have in barrels or glass jars with wood in it or around it and taste it all. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, this is Still It, and like I said, I need to do a whole bunch of tasting. Honestly, it's a whole lot of work. I need to get through a bunch of different stuff. I've already done one video. I will put a link in the description down below for it, but today I'm gonna get stuck into another 10 spirits. They need to be tasted. I need to figure out if they're good, if they're bad, if they're worth keeping, if they need to be bottled, if they need to age longer. You get the drift. Let's get stuck in. All right, the first thing I want to taste is a fermented and distilled honey. Let me just bust out a new syringe. This, honestly, guys, I don't know how old this is off the top of my head. It's got some age on it now for sure. Editing Jesse, help me out. Put the ages up as I go through these because I'm kind of in the groove now and I just want to get stuck in. So, from memory, I was amazed at the amount of honey flavor that came through and honey aroma. So what I was hoping would happen with this is that I would retain that honey and build up a little bit more complexity, a little bit more body with oak flavor, and then balance out the sweetness slightly with a little bit of astringency and spice. That's what I was hoping for. We've definitely got the oaky aroma. We're starting to get that sort of traditional bourbon oak impact, almost cherry-like actually, which is interesting, but a very interesting sweet maraschino cherry vibe, not like cough syrup, which is excellent. Okay, that's delicious. It is straight up delicious. It has pushed a little bit more towards a bourbon than I was potentially hoping for. Very similar flavors on the palate to the nose. So that big, bold, but rounded, not jaggy wood presence, vanilla-y, sweet, kind of unctuous, with a bit of that cherry as well. Once again, it's not anything like cough syrup cherry. I hate that flavor, so I'm glad it's not in here. The slight downside is that the honeycomb, and when I say honeycomb, I mean like actual, I mean the like pulling honey out of a hive and eating it, that kind of beeswaxy sort of flavor to it. That has been, it's either died off or it's been overtaken by the bourbony, oaky flavors. Right, so it's absolutely delicious. I wonder if I've let it go a little bit too long, and I fear that if I let it go even longer, it'll just taste like a bourbon that doesn't have a whole lot of the grain present. So this needs to be bottled. Bottle. All right, I have a bottling shelf. I'm gonna go put it over on there. Next up, this is a fruit brandy that was made with blackberries and strawberry guava. This has been sitting on oak. To write down what the oak was. This is oak that came out of the Irish Peated whiskey that I did a long time ago. It's been sitting in here for a while. If I had to guess, I'd say like 3-4 months, and there's not a lot of color coming through, which is good. That's kind of what I was after. I was after that really subtle, almost more like pastry sweet, Danishy kind of sweet action coming from the oak, more like a Scottish single malt with ex-bourbon casks. Wow, the aroma is still really, really cool. The strawberry guava is coming through in spades, man. I don't know how to describe that flavor if you haven't had it before. It's almost like, you know, that kind of tangy, almost like sweet and sour vibration between flavors you get in figs. It's like that, but instead of thinking fig pushing towards more like a plum in terms of the flavors that sit around it, it's way back towards berry. So it's sweet, it's light, it's fresher feeling than a dried fig. The aroma is intoxicating. I'm 100% on board with this. That's delicious. Okay, yeah. I'm almost starting to regret the peat. Almost. There's berry presence from the strawberry guava. I'm not so much tasting like straight up blackberry, but kind of like a wild berry mix or something like that. And now that I've tasted it, interestingly enough, I can actually smell the tiniest little bit of peat on the back end as well of the aroma. But you get all of those sweet berry flavors, and then it fades down to a very subtle, ashy peat presence. So more like cigar ash. It's not big, rich, earthy, funky. It's ashy. Right now, it's just kind of not working because the ash takes away from the freshness of the berry and guava flavors. And the berry and guava flavors don't have enough to kind of balance out the ashiness of the peat. So it's kind of stuck in no man's land. It's like it's trying to be two things at once, and it's not quite working. I'm slightly disappointed that for whatever reason, I can't remember why, I decided to go with the peat. There is hope though. I wonder, I hope that if I give this enough time, like probably years, to develop that sweet, like glazed pastry kind of note that I associate with second use oak, I can see that really tying the two ends of the spectrum together. My worry is that much age is going to kill off the freshness, the berry side of things. So I don't really have an option with this one. I think I just need to let it ride and hope for the best. All right, here is something interesting. I distilled this really recently. It's the sweet potato or Kumera tequila. Obviously, it's not a tequila. I know that, guys. I said that in the video. The reason I call it a tequila is that I had a hunch and some reports from other people that the Kumera kind of tastes like and smells like roasting blue agave. And I put a bunch of agave syrup in here as the fermentables. The reason I want to taste it now is that this is another one of those that has a really interesting fresh flavor to it. When I put it into these jars, it tasted straight up like apricots and peaches. Bizarre, I don't know where it came from, but it's awesome, and I don't want to age that out. I've gone with two different versions here. One, I put a big old piece of oak into the jar with the attempt to get a solid amount of color, a bit of oak flavor sooner rather than later because the spirit doesn't really need age to soften itself out. And the other, I've put, once again, an smoked whiskey stave in here, and I plan to age this one a little bit longer and see where we can get to. But I want to taste it now because there's something special about this distillate. It's got like huge potential in my mind, and I don't want to waste it. So, you know what? Actually, I'm going to pour these side by side so we can compare and contrast. All right, let's go with the one that's got a full Chaser Craft maturation stick in there to start with. Oh, wow. Okay, we are getting some oak presence already. It's not a bad thing. I don't think there's too much yet on the nose. That is perfect. I'm bottling that. Oh, am I? Okay. Sorry, guys. I got a little carried away there. Here's what's happening here. On the nose, I'm not getting so much of that peachy, apricot-y aroma. It is there, but it's balanced very nicely with the wood. The wood's there. It's quite subtle. It is a touch sawdusty at the moment. I think if I let it go longer, that would drop down. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And actually the sawdusty thing plays quite nicely with the apricot tanginess. So I'm okay with that. On the palate, when you drink it, first of all, when it hits your tongue, and the whole time you hold it in your mouth, It just kind of tastes, it tastes like a fruit brandy that doesn't taste like the fruit, with that kind of vegetal tequila-like flavor, which is cool. That's good. I should remember that that's what I wanted from this. After you swallow, however, you are absolutely smacked around the face with apricot, heaps of apricot, and a little bit of peach. It seems like the peach has faded a little bit. So this is doing exactly what I wanted it to do in a slightly different way. When I first tasted it, I was scared that all the fruit had gone away, and it comes back with the kind of retro-nasal, it's an aroma then, I guess. It's not a flavor, because you're smelling it after you swallow. I don't know, man, it's really good now. This is the first time I've been really completely and utterly stumped on just, do I bottle it or do I let it go? I think I'm going to let this go for like another 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe not even that. I'm going to let it go for 2 weeks, taste it again, and then make a decision. So this one, I'm going to leave this out somewhere where I can see it and not forget it. All right, let's try the other one. The reason I put peat in here is because I smoked, or I roasted the Kumera in an open fire on the pizza oven with the attempt of getting a little bit of smoke in there. It's almost not perceptible in this. If you really go hunting for it, probably the way it shows up a little bit more is that kind of vegetally, tequila-y flavor is kind of heading towards more of like a smoked mezcal, and that it's more umami and savory-ish. What I wanted to do with the peat was to make that pop and see if I could bring that out just a little bit more. Okay, this is pretty much this without the oak in it. That's what it is at the moment. There's slightly more smoke, ever so slightly, barely any more. The texture on this is a lot more jaggy, a lot sharper, a lot more aggressive, a lot more like cheap tequila right now. So it's interesting that the oak in there has smoothed the rough edges out a little bit already. This tastes like this without the oak presence. There's almost no oak presence there at all. This needs to age a whole lot longer. I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that that fruit profile doesn't disappear over the next year. We will see. All right, it is time to taste a Badmo barrel. I've got a bunch of these slowly piling up and aging, which is very exciting. Stick a couple of coins on there so it doesn't roll away while I'm trying to get after this. So this, while it's slowly dripping into my glass, pressure is a wonderful thing, that should be enough, is the Islay Safety Net Scotch. If you haven't come across the Safety Net recipes yet on the channel, the idea is that they're designed, I designed them to give new distillers a kick in the pants and realize that all grain mashing and then, distilling all grain products isn't as scary as you think it is. And they're set up so that even if you completely screw up the mash, it will taste better than, just a straight up sugar shine with essence in it, guaranteed. And before long, you'll realize that they're really not that scary, and you'll move on to doing all grain whiskies and stuff. Slight adjustment to what's actually in here. When I first made the Safety Net video, it was perhaps only 3 quarts full. I let it go for a little while. I tasted it. I assessed it. I decided what it was lacking, and I made another whiskey, another mash, specifically to try and bump up what it needed more of, to just kind of adjust it slightly. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is 100% heading in the right direction. I'm biased. This is the type of scotch, this is the type of spirit that I like to drink. I love big, peaty spirits, so I'm a little bit biased. Take that into consideration. But here's what we've got. A really delicious nose that is kind of pear, grainy, heaps of peat. The peat is a little bit more full and herbal than the peat I was describing before. So it has that kind of ashy, day-old fireplace, cigar ashtray kind of thing. I know that sounds disgusting to some people. Islay people, you're with me. You know what I'm talking about. But it has a little bit more of kind of a herbal. I mean, peat is decomposing plant matter, right? So it makes sense. It has a little bit more of that. On the palate, it's almost exactly the same. It's just everything is dialed up to 11. So the pear at the beginning is much more juicy feeling, and then the peat is like a big slap across the face, which is the way I like it. Interestingly enough, because this is new oak, we're starting to get a little bit in the mid palate, like between, it actually works really well. It's the transition from the sweet pear to kind of a juicy vanilla. So we've got juicy pear, juicy vanilla, and then bang, peat. It is getting a little, just a touch astringent, which I do not mind in this kind of product. And because it's new oak, it's expected, it's an aggressive drinking single malt. It's got sugar in it, but you know what I mean. I think, well, actually I know that this can carry on aging for some time without being any issue whatsoever. So let me get that out of the way and pick up another Badmo barrel, which is the 100% corn. This has been around for a while. I'm not going to use that glass again because that amount of peat has ruined. Just the dregs in the glass is going to make this taste like peat. So this was 100% corn, mashed with enzymes. I tasted in the last video exactly the same mash, like the same batch, but aging in glass on oak staves. So I'm pretty interested to try this one. Oh, it's so different to that. You almost couldn't smell two more different whiskeys back to back. Yeah, crazy. All right. Let's have a little nudge, shall we? It's still a little hot. I don't mind that. I don't dislike quote-unquote smooth whiskeys. I dislike whiskeys that are smooth at the expense of flavor. And I mean, this is my job, guys. I'm tasting high proof, high ABV spirits all the time. It sounds like a macho thing to say. It's not. It's just straight up facts. I promise you, the more you drink high ABV spirits, the more that whole like burny thing just isn't, you don't even notice it, right? This is hot. It's a little bit jaggy, but it's interestingly hot and interestingly jaggy. And the heat and the jaggy, it almost adds character to the spirit because the jagginess comes across like pepper and cinnamon and clove. And that makes the spirit more enjoyable to me. It's not for everyone, I get that, I understand. But for me, it's good. And this is for me, like I'm the one that's gonna drink this, right? So, big corn flavor, or aroma, I should say up front. Getting to be a pretty decent amount of vanilla. What char is this? I've forgotten. Oh, right, it is the special run of, what was it, 3 barrels we made, Ben and I together. So it is low, medium, high toast in the different staves, and then charred 1, 2, 3 across the other axis, which, tasting this, I kind of wonder if there's something to that, because I'm getting heaps of vanilla, heaps of oak, but also heaps of barrel char. I don't know if I've quite experienced anything like this. So there might be something to this, guys. There's an interesting estery thing on the back end as well. And from memory, I think this was the AM1 yeast. So it kind of pushes the yeast esters more towards a scotch than a bourbon. I really like that. Once again, this can take a whole lot more age. I'm not worried about it at all. Let me get it out of here. I have one more Badmo barrel down there that I need to taste. I'll do that last. I have these two, but what I need to do right now is go and rinse my glasses out because, you know, big strong bourbons. I'm back with rinsed glasses and I am thirsty for, what is this? The Clawhammer Bourbon and Clawhammer Bourbon. Okay. Okay, so it's the same run. Forgive me, guys, I forget what I make. I do too much of it. It's the same run, so literally the same run off the still, but 2 different oak treatments. This one, the oak was toasted in a pan. So I messed around for a little while with, instead of roasting the wood in the oven, let me get these out of the way so I can keep these together. Instead of roasting the wood in the oven, I was kind of toasting it on a pan. And I can't remember exactly why I thought that might be beneficial. And it seems to work fine. They're the same, well, closely the same wood. It's all wood that comes out of the maturation stick packs from Chase the Craft. This one, however, I toasted it in the oven. I don't remember why. Maybe it was to test the 2 against each other. So, you know, let's do just that and just pretend like past Jesse was onto it and had a plan. Interesting. Okay, so these both taste, well, they both just smell like bourbon, which is awesome. That's what we wanted them to be. This one is heavier on the cherry. This one is heavier on the spice, but is it cinnamon? This one's a little bit more cinnamon and cloves, I would have to say. A hint more nutmegginess as well. All right, let's have a taste. I'm not gonna lie, this is almost like drinking water after the last one. It's a lot prettier, it's a lot sweeter, it's a lot less developed. I mean, it's a younger bourbon as well. These are both in here at 52% too. So obviously that's what I was going more for a pretty approachable bourbon if I was oaking it at 52%. They're so close on the palate. The palate's closer than the nose. This is slightly more astringent, slightly more barrel spice. This is ever so slightly smoother, not so astringent, a little bit more cherry. They're both good. There's nothing wrong with either. Neither of them are headed into trouble with age. You know what? That's better than both of them. That's much better than both of them. The cherry and the vanilla balance out the slight astringency more, but gives it more body. I like it together. Neither of these are running into any issues anytime soon with aging, so I'll let them keep going. And last up, we have another Badmo barrel. This one, wow, look, I actually put a date on here. 2nd of September 22. So a little over a year old now. Yeah, that's the rinsed one. Let me get some of that out of there. This is the Mongrel Whiskey. And I called it the Mongrel Whiskey because I literally had a look around the distillery. I had a bunch of grains that needed to be used up. I didn't have any specific plans for them. I just threw them all in together, mashed them and distilled them. How did it turn out? You know what? I don't know. I haven't tasted this. I maybe haven't tasted this since it went in a barrel. Oh, look, I got a chunk of char in my glass. I'm guessing I used a M1 yeast in this. I hope that's true. I don't remember it all, but it smells like it. And you know what? It's a good test. If it actually is M1 yeast, and I think I can smell it, and it actually was, that means that there is probably something to this estery thing, and it's not all in my head, right? So let's check it. Hold on. Where are we? Still it. Mongrel Whiskey. There we go. Fermented with AM1 yeast. There you go. All right. I think there's something to this. It changes the character of a whiskey. And I like it. I like it. It's not good for everything. It's nice to have variety, of course, but I quite like it. Interesting. The AM1 is really nice. The graininess is really nice. I think, from memory, there was also a bunch of, you know what, I've got it here, a bunch of like darker malts, like crystals and chocolate in there. Crystal, Shepherd's Delight, a little bit of Manuka, not getting that. Chocolate, malted rye, there's all sorts in there. Obviously, guys, I'll put links for all these videos down there. But In this, it is slightly odd because it's heading like orchard fruit, sweet, grainy, and then it drops right down to crystalline chocolate, and it doesn't smell musty, but it almost gives the impression of mustiness. The flavors, the taste is going to be very interesting. You know what? The flavor is really nice. The aroma, the smell is good as well. It just feels a little bit oddball. It is slightly, ever so slightly astringent. It doesn't have a huge amount of body to balance that astringency. I can definitely let this one go longer. I mean, it's only been in here a year. I would guess that getting through to 2 years isn't going to hurt this at all. But I will watch it a little more closely than the other two Badmo barrels. Anyway, team, I need to say a huge, huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, Patreons, for letting me do what I do. I thoroughly freaking appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And honestly, that's kind of the reason that I make videos like this. This video isn't going to blow up on YouTube. Most people don't care. But I know there's a core audience out there, like the people that appreciate what we do enough to, you know, throw some cash our way, the Patreons. And I like making videos for you guys sometimes as well, not just, you know, YouTube-y content. Anyway, let me label all of these so I know I've tasted them and when, and I don't do them again in the next video. And I will be back sometime in the next month, 2 months, to taste another 10, 15 products. And eventually, I'll get through all of them. And then it'll probably be time to start tasting them again. Anyway, have a kick-ass week, guys. See ya.